Hello and welcome. I'm Sonia, aka Binge of the Week, which is my handle. I welcome you to the inaugural episode of Binge of the Week. I used to do a podcast years ago with a good friend of mine as my co-host, where we broke down the show Merlin, episode by episode. And I loved doing that. Anyway, I'm a binger. That's who I am. I consume a lot of content. I am a serial rewatcher. And I love to talk about and think about the things that I'm watching. And I do a lot of posting about that on Threads, which is probably how most people find me. And I just wanted a format for a short solo podcast to do more cohesive thoughts, not just like firing off my live watches and rewatches, which I think I also would like to do some more deconstructing shows, maybe not episode by episode every time, maybe season by season, alone or with a co-host. But for now, we're just going to do a weekly with some thoughts that came up for what I binged that week. I am a production dork. I love storytelling. I love everything that goes into production. Cinematography, stunts. I'm a photographer. I think a lot about these things. And I spent a decade working on the studio production side of the industry. So I love to deconstruct both the behind the scenes and what works as far as like the interaction of storytelling with the audience. That's just an intro to who I am. And if you're listening to this, thank you. When I did my original podcast for the Love of Merlin, my co-host and I agreed that if we got one listener, we would be over the moon happy. That was the goal. I'm going to make this if I get 2 listeners, just because I feel like it should up your game. But really, it would astound me if people wanted to hear my thoughts, especially solo. I'm going to learn how to do this solo. Because when you show up with a friend, at least you got to chat with a friend about TV, even if no one listens. This will just be me chatting to myself, but at least I'll get my thoughts organized. So it's not just going to be a roundup of what I watched last week. I really want to have some thoughts. Obviously, it's a podcast. Last week, I was still writing a lot of like the wanting to watch space stuff from the Artemis mission a few weeks ago. If you missed NASA sending some wonderful astronauts to the moon, I suggest you go check that out. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube. So I checked out For All Mankind, which is a show that I tried to watch years ago, couldn't get into. This time I forced myself to stay. I made it through 1 season. It's not super clicking with me. I'm going to try to come back to it. I'm just mentioning that in case it comes back in future episodes of this podcast, because I am going to try to finish it. There's something about it, and it might be worth exploring what it is that's not clicking enough for the podcast. Although I am someone who's been a lifetime completionist, I have watched things that I hate, like over 100 episodes of things I hate, and I'm trying to not do that anymore because it's not a good use of your time. But I do try to be there's an objective take and subjective. Like, I think For All Mankind is very good objectively. It's not working for me. It is good. I do not super enjoy. Those are 2 different things. So what else did I watch? I really want to talk about Twister and Twisters. Because Earth Day happened and I watched Twister, Twisters, and Independence Day. Those are all Earth Day movies. I'm not going to explain why. I am a 90s girl. So I'm trying to not be biased when I go into this conversation of Twister and Twisters. Twister, not just on a nostalgia front, to me, is a classic. I think a lot of people would agree with that, especially people from my generation and older. I don't know how the youngins feel about Twister. And that's kind of what I want to talk about, is really where these 2 movies sit as a comparison of how we approach making a movie like this. 28 years later. So like a 30-year gap, 1996, 2024. I'm watching Twister and I'm posting about it. And the post that really took off was about my favorite scene, which is lunch. I like to call it breakfast. It's probably lunch, realistically, at Aunt Meg's house. Such a beautiful scene for so many reasons that it does character work. It's brilliantly blocked and it's got a lot going on, but it just feels fun and you want to be there. And I want to be there and I want to go have that meal and I want to be with these people. And I feel like a lot of people responded to that and they want to be there. And that's kind of the movie, right? We're on a really fun ride, even though Twister is technically upsetting. Like it starts with her dad dying. And yet the vibe of the movie is always fun because it's a 90s movie. We're like on this entertainment ride. Logic isn't really always factoring in. I miss this. I miss this camp filmmaking. And it's not like they're not playing a comedy. They're all playing it very serious, very straight. And it is like upsetting things happen and it is dangerous. But we're still on like an adventure, fun ride the whole time. And it's because I feel like there's just like this 90s sensibility of filmmaking that I adore. And maybe not everyone does, but I miss it. And I feel like it's coming back a little bit now. It's trying to come back. Trying to recapture this like, hey, we used to have fun at movies. I feel like we've gotten into this place of realism, and for things to be a good movie, they have to be like really serious about things like trauma. And so you get these two movies where the female protagonist has been traumatized in the first scene. We witness both traumas. They both lose people to a tornado. What Twister doesn't do is linger on making sure that you understand. Like, there's a lot said during Twister about her trauma, and you see she's upset, and she's chasing because she's upset. She's fixated because she's upset. But not in this heavy way of, hey, let's sit in the trauma for the next 30 minutes, which is how Twisters opens for me. I think it's it's the first 25 minutes of like, just so we're clear, she's really not okay. And it's like, we know. We were there. I just think it gets so heavy. Twisters, to me, the first half of the movie is just like, hey, just remember how upsetting all of this is. It's like, I know, I was there. We were all there. And the other thing it does is this like 2024, like we're in the 2020s, we're making movies and everything has to be really accurate and realistic in some way. So the weather science is better. But I would argue that you're sitting on a fence. You're trying to straddle two worlds where you're trying to like have this absurd ride of just storm chasing and woohoo while still keeping this grip on like, this is what it's like realistically. So you never commit to either side. And for me, it loses a lot. I think Twister is fun because like, it's just absurdity. And yeah, again, we're playing it straight. Like, I'm sure that if I looked up the director, he wasn't trying to make like something funny, but it was funny. It was funny and it was tongue in cheek, like the cow thing, right? Like when the cow flies by, like that's probably not very realistic. Who cares? That's like one of the best scenes of the movie. And it's one of the things people love the most about it is this like, it is tongue in cheek. You've got the character is like looking through the truck at the cow flying by. And we're all here for the comedic effect of that without having to do the thing we do nowadays in movies, which is like, well, technically a cow wouldn't just be flying by and looking at you. Like, yeah, it would probably be a horrifying sight and it would be much more brutal than what that scene is like. And I think if you tried to do it now, you'd be like, well, realistically, what that would look like. And this is where, for me, specifically for Sonia, we get into trouble with like the current filmmaking landscape. Just like not being able to let go. And I think we've also trained audiences to not be able to let go. Like I think some people watch Twister, and I got some comments when I was posting about it that I was like, are you trying to apply logic to Twister? Because what I had to say was, this is 90s filmmaking. Logic does not live here. Okay? We can't be doing the logic game on a 90s movie. I think some people would argue with me that, well, movies are better because of it. Some movies, maybe. But entertainment that's meant to thrill and take you on this kind of ride kind of suffer for that filmmaking, in my perspective. I don't think they gain anything by that. Like, are the effects better? Yeah, but the CGI better be better in 30 years. But is being accurate about the weather science really enhancing your experience of this movie? I would argue no. And I'm someone who loves logic and science, but I also love to be taken for an adventure. And I wonder if people have lost that a little bit, the ability to just be entertained. And like, does that make it a little more shallow? Maybe. But is that such a bad thing with this kind of movie? Because, you know, we had great movies that were much more dramatic back then as well. I always like to use the Schindler's List comparison. Schindler's List is 5 stars for making Schindler's List. To me, Twister is 5 stars for making Twister. They're both 5-star movies. They set out to do a thing, and they both did it the best way possible. I wouldn't change anything about Twister. And I say that like, okay, could the effects be better? But it was like 1996. So in the scope of what was possible, I wouldn't change anything. And the thing that Twisters did well was the back half works a lot better for me, because I think you get the moment where she's kind of let go a little bit of the trauma, and now she's like going to do the thing. So it takes us an hour to get into this space where like we can go do storm chasing the way they kind of did it in the first one. But at least what we have the whole way through is an amazingly fun soundtrack, which I listen to in my car. It's great. And I think the soundtrack portrays like we wanted to have fun. So we put this amazing fun soundtrack together. The actual movie, I think, is a little less fun. And I say this all, I did enjoy Twisters. I dressed up as her for Halloween. I had fun. I've watched it several times. It is not bad. I think it's a movie that is a viable sequel to a classic. It doesn't trample on the original. It doesn't improve on it in any way. It doesn't live up to it for me. But it's still a good time. So I'm not necessarily shitting on it. But I think because I have an original to compare it to, if Twisters just came out and it was just like a ride, I would be like, this was like a good ride. But because I have the version that is the better version, I'm so keenly aware that it could have been more fun. I just don't know that we can make movies like that right now. I wonder who's capable of it. Some things are getting close. I just would like to bring back this, what I call like the 90s vibes of movies, but it's just this ability to maybe depart from the reality of our world and step into a little bit more. We're here to tell a story, and it doesn't really have to be accurate to like everything that we experience in real life today. I think I think the fun side of movie making has suffered a little bit, and I think you can get into it. Maybe like the new Superman gave me a lot of hope, but that's still in the comic book world, so it's easy to go enhance like that. But again, I could do a thesis on how I feel about the Dark Knight effect on all those kinds of movies. I enjoy the comic book vibe. I do not want gritty realism in any of my comic book stuff. That's a personal preference. I know a lot of people disagree. Like, I'm a minority in that. So maybe I'm a minority in this. Maybe I'm wrong. Again, I just think when I look at these two movies, I see just what's happened to filmmaking. And in a lot of ways, like, it's good that we got better at making things better and more realistic. But sometimes I think it's just a detriment to the fun side of like, let's tell a story. Like, did you have to bang me over the head about her trauma? Like, I took it seriously when Joe was traumatized in Twister. It's just a fact of the movie, though. It doesn't have to drive every scene. It's there. We know about it. It's mentioned many times, and it's clearly her driver as a character, but it's not the driver of every like conversation and plot point that's happening. And I think that's the difference. So, what we've gained in emotional depth in movies, which is important and good in a lot of ways, has stolen a little bit of, for me, the joy of just being able to do a campy movie. You know, I think I just miss camp, and that's a very personal take. But this is my podcast, so I can have whatever take I want. And you guys can listen to this and disagree with me. Even the idea of the fun storm chasers who come in and, you know, they're all like, ooh, we're going to shoot fireworks into the things, like feels almost forced. Like, oh, how do we enhance that fun factor? Because now we've gone all in on this like trauma story. So it can't coexist until midway through the movie. I do love my favorite part of Twisters outside of the soundtrack is, I think her name is Kathy, the mom. She's the Aunt Meg of the movie, and it's funny to me that they're very different, but somehow they both became to me the emotional linchpin of the movie and the heart of the movie, even though they're not in it that much. I think after they leave her mom's house in Twisters, we don't even see her again. At least Aunt Meg stays in the story because they have to go rescue her, but I think those two characters end up being the thing that really holds it all together for me. In fact, when I say the front half versus the back half of Twisters, for me, the dividing factor is when Kathy is introduced. And I like her so much right away. She's like the closest you get to the vibe of the first movie for me. It's not like playing too cartoonish. She's just like in the middle there where she's kind of in on it more than everybody else. Where we're kind of playing like Glenn Powell's team as like comic relief in a way that they can't match. Well, no one can match a Philip Seymour Hoffman, but it's just about the whole vibe of the movie for me. So that's my take for my last week's binge, is that I love Twister so much for what it represents of just the entire ilk of filmmaking of that era. And I'm happy these movies are kind of like getting a resurgence and getting sequels made. And they are trying to be like more camp than what's been made in the last maybe 10, 15 years. But I'm just seeing it as like, oh, look at it. Like you can see it. This thing that I imagine exists, I think I can see it for real. So you tell me, am I imagining it? Am I wrong? Maybe I'm wrong. But I think a lot of us still love Twister because it's such a classic and it's not just nostalgia. I do wonder if younger audiences can even watch that stuff and enjoy it because it's like, well, this is silly. Like, yeah, that's the point. It's kind of the point, is like, it's not too serious. So I do wonder whether audiences can even enjoy that kind of stuff if it were made that way now. But we're all rewatching it. So like, who knows? Maybe. So I'm going to leave it there for this week. If you've listened to all of this, wow. I hope I didn't ramble. It's a learning curve for me to do this solo, to keep my train of thought going without another person here. And right now I'm binging my way through Animal Kingdom. So I'm 95% sure the next episode of this is going to be about Animal Kingdom. I didn't know the show existed a week ago. I am really ripping through it the way I always do. I've done rewatches on Threads, like live threading, and people sometimes will comment to me being like, "How much are you watching?" And it's like, yeah, well, if you just put a show on all day, you can get through a lot of seasons real fast. So this time next week, I will have finished Animal Kingdom, and I will have thoughts on that. It's an interesting TNT show that, again, thanks to the pit, I'm someone who likes to follow actor filmographies. So if I get into an actor's body of work, I will like start watching all of their stuff. So Sean Hannity being so awesome on the pit led to Animal Kingdom. So I will see you then if you listen to this and you actually are planning to come back. I think after Animal Kingdom, I might have to do pit rewatch. No promises. I don't know what's going to grab me in any given week, but I would like to do a podcast about the pit, and I would like to do a podcast episode at least about Heated Rivalry, because those are my two favorite shows from last year, and I have many thoughts on both of them. All right, stay cool.